Hello there. I know it's been a long time, and I know I say that every video, but I think I've finally got my life in order, and I'm back with some match analysis for Guilty Gear Xrd. This time we're looking at Pida, who is a Raven player, one of the best players in Europe, and we're going to look at his run at UFA top 8 from last year. Now this happened in November, late November, and I wanted to do it in December, I wanted to do it in January, and I finally got around to doing it now. So I wanted to highlight why that is, because I got a comment on one of my videos recently, on my video about the Amelia matchup, from Asphyxia, who is an up-and-coming Raven player who is trying to learn the game, and he felt that my analysis videos were very helpful, and I realized that this is a really hard game to get into, and if there's anything I can do to make it easier for people to understand the game, then that's great, and I want to do that. So hopefully this helps, and hopefully you learn something from watching this. And if you're not that guy in particular, hopefully you enjoy hearing me wax poetic about Raven, and how hard it is to play this character in a tournament for, well, however long we are here. As for the player, that's Pida on the left, and he's he's the best Raven in Europe. I also personally think he's the best Raven of the active Ravens in the world right now. And Xrd is a pretty small game, so the active players, the active Ravens in the world are like 5 people. There's like Pida. In North America, there's Manny Blaze, Adapt, and Babaloo, or Perfectly Balanced, or whatever he's calling himself. And then I think there are like 1 or 2 people in Japan who actually know what they're doing. There's one guy in Japan who just flails all the time. He plays a crazy aggro Raven. And then there were a few former Raven players like Zadi and Kazunoko technically, but Kazunoko never kept up with him, and Zadi stopped playing Rev 2. So it's mostly just us carrying the torch. I've played Pida once, it was like a year ago, and I was... he had never stopped playing the game, and I had taken a long break from it, so he was obviously much better than me. But I want to point out that his opponent, King Rasta, is very, very good. He's also one of the best players in Europe, I think, just in general. I'm not sure how much he's kept up with the game now that there are a lot of other anime games that people can play, but I've seen him play... I saw him play like 5 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, or earlier than that, and he's very, very good. Plays a very, very robust Faust. Never really caught off guard. Pardon me. I'm going to try to do this with as little editing as possible, partially to make my life easier and partially to hold myself accountable so that I don't spend 4.5 hours talking about 45 minutes of gameplay. One thing I want to point out about Faust versus Raven is that I think Raven has a slight edge in the matchup. It's either even or a slight Raven advantage, mostly because Raven is not generally that scared of Faust's pokes, and Raven can stance items and the occasional stray hit pretty freely. So anytime Faust commits to like a single hit or a single poke just to throw an item, if Raven is stancing that, I think Raven honestly probably wins a little bit more than Faust, just because the damage bonus and the combo bonus is really, really helpful. Raven can also compete with Faust at range, because Faust Far Slash and Faust 2H are very good buttons, but Raven does have things that can contest them, which you'll see a little later in the set, I think. But anyway. Round start is, I think, mostly defined by whether or not Raven does 5k, because if Raven does 5k and Faust does 2p, Raven actually lifts his hurt box up, so he gets a full combo if Faust tries to go for a low poke. But if Faust does anything else, it whiff punishes Raven 5k. So that's kind of the decision-making at play at round start. I had to do a slight re-record there because that was actually a button check and not the real round. Hey, if you're doing a button check in 2024 or 2023 in a game where you can set buttons and test them on the character select screen, go fuck yourself. It's not Street Fighter 4 anymore. Stop doing this. Anyway, here's the actual round start, and you can see Pida expects King Rasta to do something, so he just goes for a stance. King Rasta backs off, throws an item. I'm not going to stop at every little thing, but I want to highlight round start interactions, because the way that this matchup gets out of hand for Raven is that Faust gets a good string of items or a couple of counter hits, and Raven is just forced to block repeatedly. Ironically, or strangely, Faust actually has the better rushdown of the two because he has more plus frames and can access them more easily. So Raven generally wants to avoid that happening. Nice little bit of Oki. Glide makes it hard to anti Raven, although not impossible. Pida just happy to cash out and crank King Rasta's wrist gauge, but now he's in the corner. Yeah, that's dangerous. It was free to absorb that hit and get the excitement, but you can see that's a big chunk of purple health. So Pida has to play very conservatively here, or he just loses all of that. And that's kind of the issue with the Faust matchup, or with any kind of ranged poking matchup. It's very easy for Faust to make that purple life disappear by getting a single hit, and I'm sure that King Rasta is playing around that. Yeah, and there it goes. And that combo, that was basically a double damage combo because of that. And so now Pida's in the corner, and he decides to tech out, and he gets poisoned, and I believe this actually kills. Yeah. Fun fact, in the older games, poison does not actually ignore guts. But in this game, it does ignore guts, and that's disastrous on a character like Raven, who relies on his guts. That is the mechanic that makes you take less damage the less health you have. Let's see what the round start is. Yeah, and so Pida's doing 5k, which would beat Faust 2p, and King Rasta is reading that, so he's going for the most rewarding punish, which is Pogo. And it works out. Sorry, I'll let that play out in real time. There we go. Yeah, and Pida willing to trade with Scratch or to trade with Excitement, but unfortunately the weight slows him down there. Yeah, and that's actually one of the best things Raven can do in the matchup, is force you to block Needle and then glide in afterwards. It requires a very precisely timed anti-air, and even for a character like Faust, that's not always reliable. Pardon me, I had to step away for a moment. Anyway, Pida gets a little combo, and because of his high excitement, he can get 2D Scratch, and it sets up Orb Oki properly. King Rasta decides to burst because he knows that. Unfortunately, Raven's sweep is burst safe at that range, so King Rasta, well, he doesn't connect. And Pida goes for a nice little punish here. This is something that Pida does a lot, which is he properly uses his meter, and he saves his meter for Roman cancels. And he waits for the opportune time. And you can see this is a huge chunk of damage on Faust, and it's going to set up a really nice orb knockdown. Yeah, or it would. He went for the short combo version of that knockdown. One awkward thing about Raven doing that Scratch at the very end there is that because Scratch gets additional height and additional hit stun as Raven's excitement levels decrease or increase, it actually becomes harder to knock down with this move. And Faust actually gets sent flying so high that he can tech out here. I think he was only 1 or 2 frames away. So either there was some smaller manual delay that Pida could have done, or he could have just done the different combo route, which would have been 5H into jump KSD orb. I respect him for doing the harder thing though, or for trying to go for the optimal thing. One really strange quirk of Guilty Gear's combo system is that the hit stun scaling is based on the amount of time that your opponent spends in the combo, which I believe includes hit stop. It's based on absolute time anyway. So if you lock somebody into a long animation like Raven's grab, then it just makes it harder to combo out of. Whereas something like Street Fighter, or to a lesser extent King of Fighters, has damage scaling and hit stun scaling and so on applied at various levels depending on the individual move. If you go into training mode in Street Fighter 6, you can see this. It'll show you what the damage scaling is. But we don't have that luxury in Guilty Gear because we don't need it, I guess. Or it's just a weird game. Anyway, it screws up the situation for Pida, which is a shame because he would have been able to ride this to victory if it hadn't. Rasta still blocks, so he spends meter on a dead angle. Rare footage of Raven backdash actually doing something. And now, unfortunately, Pida's in the corner. He decides to go for a safe block string. It happens to hit. Faust hits Raven out of the air. Faust goes for an anti-air. And then Pida just takes the easy RC dash combo. Nothing too crazy. Again, round start is... Okay, we're just doing hard reads at round start here, because Pida dashes forward, because I guess he expects King Rasta to do a back off, or just like a back dash. And King Rasta goes for an instant air dash, presumably because he expects Pida to do something similar. So I'll let that play out in real time. One unfortunate thing about the media player that I'm using is, although it handles showing individual frames really well, when the time comes to snap back to where it should be, it's sometimes a little weird about that, but it's still a very good program. It's called mpv.net if you're curious. This was a really cool combo. Pida somehow gets a double side swap and makes it work. He goes for a small stagger. Rasta very respectful until the very end. Okay. Yeah, Pida just going for stuff that puts his opponent in block stun. And that 2D scratch is what I was talking about earlier. And he gets a combo off of this. King Rasta techs forward mindlessly. That was a bit risky on his part. I'll explain that in a second here. So when you're up in the air in the corner like this with Raven, it's very tempting for Raven to do anti-air S-grab as the follow-up here. Pida goes for the orb, which is safer. The thing is that if you tech forward mindlessly, or if you just tech forward to try and escape the corner, or if you tech double jump, or if you tech double jump, then Raven will just extend his hand up and grab you, and there's not really anything you can do about it unless you commit to blitzing it, because it's a strike, not a true grab. Not a true grab. Not a true grab. So, generally, I would avoid doing this, but I would also be the kind of guy who just goes for the anti-air grab instead of doing the safe thing, which is putting out the orb and making it hard to escape the corner. You can see Rasta uses his double jump, so he's actually forced to just try and stall in the air, and now Pida tries to get him with the grab. Unfortunately, the air stall and the weird hitbox interactions on the bomb and the orb mean that Raven gets hit here. So now Pida has to block, and he just, yeah. That's something I also wanted to highlight about this particular run from Pida. He uses the orb a lot. Like, he uses the orb as a neutral control tool very well. I love that target switch from the 2H into the excitement stance, because the bomb would have killed him if he had done scratch. Unfortunately, he loses it all immediately, but, you know, whatever. Anyway, Pida's use of orb in this whole run that he makes is incredibly, incredibly good. It's something that I don't think a lot of Ravens, myself included, have actually implemented well, like using the regular orb as a neutral control option, because it essentially prevents you from approaching in the air against him, and it makes your approach either go under, which is really easy for Raven to stop, or go over top really high, which is also very easy. Anyway, King Rasta's reeling in his catch of the day.
That was fantastic to get that right there.
Nice little combo here. Pida does have meter. He decides to block normally. Tries to go for a needle wire C. Tries to tech out delayed. Unfortunately, King Rasta goes up and wants to air throw him, but Pida attempted to tech into something, so he just gets counter hit. It happens. That's Exerd. And we'll go right back into game 2 if the production team understands that. Okay, there we go. Yes, I am getting mad about the production team on a different continent for an event that happened 3 months ago. Why do you ask? That's a crazy thing about Faust in this game. He has access to knockdowns and air dashes and projectiles really, really nice, really, really reliably, and it's really, really nice for him. Fortunately, Pida wakes up mashing throw as soon as the block stun wears off, and King Rasta misspaces himself or whatever, and he gets hit by it. Nice little high-low mix-up from Pida there. Yeah, so this is actually a smaller thing about Raven's Oki to understand when you do it yourself. So this Oki is super fake as far as doing an immediate glide, because every character in the game can either anti-air underneath the orb or just crouch underneath it and mash like a crouching button, and Raven gets hit. You see, if I go frame by frame, Faust has a uniquely long face-down knockdown, so I believe yeah, but even then he can crawl underneath it, right? So for Raven's perspective, you want to use this to approach from an angle where the orb is covering you, which is usually like doing a steep glide like this. It's not quite that fast, but that's basically the idea. And you can see that that Pida connected with the hit of the orb, or with the hit of his glide, and then did 2k. And this Oki is very different because it's not even making contact with Faust, and it's not even hovering above his head. So this essentially just means that Faust can't anti-air you if you jump at him with, and he couldn't anti-air you with 5k. That's basically all this does. It's significantly worse. However, Pida decides to press his luck here a little bit by doing glide, like a regular instant air dash glide, and it does work out for him.
Just like you were saying earlier.
Yeah. I imagine King Rasta got hit trying to anti-air, which would be the correct idea if he had been a couple frames faster.
Obviously, you know, they're able to really
Anyway, now we're back to the good Oki, or the pretty good Oki.
from Faust, but then you're gonna try and get
This is unfortunately a missed input. If you look at Pida up in the top left corner, you can see him like quirk his head a little bit. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. It happens to the best of us. He just missed his TK orb input, so we got super jump forward, whiff jump H, and be unsafe. We can watch that play out again. And now here's going to go for the TK orb, and he doesn't do it, sadly. Which enables King Rasta to start throwing items, and it's just, it sucks. Pida willing to spend 75 meter just to get out of blocking, which I understand. King Rasta instant blocking, spending a bit of meter, and that combo only worked because of the black hole. That was really good on his part. Yeah, that's weird, actually. I want to highlight that. That's another thing that makes Faust so good in this game, is that the items often create situations that bail him out, even when he's wrong. So, some characters would have to, depending on their air throw, block the Mega Mini Faust here. Fortunately, Raven doesn't, but he can't glide because Mega Mini Faust is there. So, Pida just sort of stares at this for a second, and then he figures, whatever, I'll just clear it off the screen, does needle, there it goes. But that would normally make Faust eat this whole Oki thing, but because he happened to throw that item, he can't. And this is one of the reasons why they retooled Faust so dramatically in Strive, and why he kind of sucked. Maybe he still sucks? I don't know. I don't care. All his items are meant to promote interaction now, and Mega Mini Faust is definitely not an interaction item, you know? Yeah, Pida decides to spend some meter just to go in and force the throw, which works, but unfortunately the black hole makes this combo weird. He tries to go for the Faust-specific combo, which is cool and all, but because of the black hole, the pushback gets adjusted, and Faust is saved, even though he made a mistake. But fortunately, Pida's air throws are frosty, and he gets that. Round start again. Evasive action from both players, although the drill is not really that evasive. I think, so you can see Pida going on the offensive a little bit more when King Rasta is blocking, because King Rasta has represented that he's not going to like mash or twitch or do like crazy stuff. So Pida decides to do something a little riskier there, and his reward is that he gets to crank King Rasta's guard bar to 50%. Now, in Exerd, you start taking forced counter hits when your risk bar goes to 50%, so this is actually kind of a big deal. Also, if King Rasta were to get hit, he would just take a shit ton of damage. So this is kind of fine for Raven. Raven's surprisingly good at doing this. Unfortunately, he's the one getting counter hit. King Rasta drops his link, spaghetti everywhere. King Rasta drops his combo, spaghetti everywhere. Pida just wants to pick up the food, which makes sense. Pida just wants to stance. Yeah, and spaghetti everywhere. Lots of crazy stuff happening. I had something to say there, but it's not that important. I just want to highlight how Pida is prioritizing keeping excitement, and eventually Rasta feels like he has to do something a little more aggressive. I'll go back and explain that. So, Pida gets a tick of excitement here, so he's at 50%. This is 5 ticks, so a 15% damage boost, which is really nice. And this means that King Rasta is suddenly no longer winning the inevitability game, because that's something you have to think about when you play like matchups like this, where characters can just retreat and do stuff and not instantly lose. From your perspective as King Rasta, you haven't gotten hit a lot, right? And you've got the damage lead, you got the life lead. But you do not have the character resource lead because you are not polluting the screen with items, and you don't have the tension lead. So that kind of means that if you let Raven do stuff, it could be bad. So Rasta feels like he has to do something. He reaches out, throws an item, goes in, and actually this is really funny. If you go back here, you can see King Rasta is actually slowed down because he got hit by the needle. And that's why he doesn't make it to this donut on time. For whatever reason, as a reference to Raven's appearance in Guilty Gear Overture, which is a terrible game, his needle slows you down on hit in this game, because that's what it did in the old one. Even though the old one is a completely different genre of game, it's like a MOBA. So King Rasta tries to run for the donut, but he's so slow that he can't get there, and he gets comboed, and this actually hurts a lot. Yeah, and now Pida is just going for the empty low, and he's just spending a bit of meter to ensure that King Rasta is going to sit still in the corner. Now he gets the TK orb, and now this is a very hard thing to block, and this is what I was talking about, the Scratch RC. Pida gets a sick combo here, actually. It's, like, that's super cool. I love that. I want to point out how cool this combo is. Pardon me. So he does something burst safe, yada yada, Scratch RC, orb, and then runs forward, anti-air grab. The only thing he does that's slightly incorrect here is that he does jump KS immediate jump D, which puts the orb slightly further towards the side of the screen. And if you look closely, Faust could actually crawl underneath this, which sucks, because you don't want to let Faust try and escape things. You can see he's like holding down back, and it takes a teensy tiny bit of time for him to actually get hit. So, yeah. Fortunately, King Rasta figures that... Oh, sorry, the solution to that would be to do a slight delay Gatling into jump D, because for whatever reason, pushback is not applied uniformly if you do a slight delay Gatling. And you can see the difference in Raven doing... Well, you can see the difference in Raven doing jump D because he wants to be pushed back really far so that he can set up the orb at a very particular distance. It doesn't really matter here. King Rasta just decides to block. Spends meter on a dead angle here. Pida backdashes, but unfortunately Raven's backdash is total garbage. Probably the single worst in the game. And I want to point out something earlier I said about Faust being unaccountable for items, for item throws. Yeah, so he threw the item, and Pida, if that hadn't been literally the hit that killed Rasta, Pida probably would have tried to do /2H, or /something, maybe /needle, or into Scratch, and he would have gotten counter hit by this hammer, and he would have nearly been being stunned. A lot of Raven's matchups are like this, where he can play well consistently, and then he makes one tiny mistake, and he's nearly losing. And I think that's what makes him such a hard character to play in tournaments. Because in tournaments, you want to play characters like Faust, who can make mistakes, and be rewarded for making them. Again, thank you to the production crew for just not following the game. I believe this one was a particularly long delay before we went back into it. A particularly long delay. Yeah, there we go. Look, it's only 11 seconds, okay? Like, who cares? How does Pida have that much excitement? I don't know. I would love to know. Yeah. And he's just sitting on excitement here, sitting on tons of meter. And I was willing to spend it. And because he had the restraint to spend it, he has 50 meter for an RRC, 25 meter for a YRC, forces the dead angle out of King Rasta, and now Pida still has the tangent advantage. I want to point that out. That's something very, very few people seem to understand about how meter works in this game. So we can see Pida doing all this stuff, and he gets the hit, and he builds meter. So he could have chosen to do like a Scratch RC combo there, or to extend his pressure with like Needle YRC or something, but this is obviously better because he's not spending meter. And the reason why he doesn't want to spend meter is because if he spent any, it'd be so much harder to get that last half block of tension at the bottom left of the screen here. This. It's extremely important that you basically get above one of these levels of tension, one of these whatever, the arrows. Because when you do, and you get into that new threshold of meter, you have so much more control over the game. And if you spend meter usually on like a Roman cancel, you go into meter gain penalty, and your tension pulse, which is a modifier for the amount of tension you gain, gets really screwed up. Most people who are bad at the game, or just new at the game, constantly YRC like a projectile as soon as they possibly can, and that actually costs you more than the 25 meter. It costs you a lot more, because not only do you spend 25, but you don't gain meter for the next little while. So that's the general idea that Pida plays to here, and it rewards him very well. Rasta forced to burst, and now we're going back. Now Pida has the meter to spend once he's already in this really good position. Unfortunately, his backdash gets caught by Faust doing the scalpel. Yeah, are we gonna see? Yeah, see? We saw Pida move forward here, and I was paying attention to the excitement timer because I was wondering, would he go into stance to try and maintain it, or would he try to use the fact that Rasta knows he wants to go into stance to move forward and challenge Rasta, and Pida does the second. Looks like Rasta's doing 2D, I think this is sweep, the startup animation, and so he gets caught out of it by Raven doing 2H, and he just barely goes back up to an excitement level after doing that, which means that this kills because it connects properly. Round start is... Man, we're just doing the hardest reads on round start, huh? I mean, it worked, and now King Rasta gets hit by the grab because he's worried about other stuff. Yeah, and this is the character-specific combo that specifically only works on Faust. The reason why you would do this is because you get the scratch to increase your excitement and reset your excitement timer, and you get the nice orb setup. You could do a double scratch loop, or a jump normal into scratch, and then do like a glide, which would still be pretty good, but this is the more optimal combo if you have the mindset for it, or the awareness for it.
Into this quarter situation right now, low orb, sticking with this multiple overheads right here.
Yeah, and that's another thing about Raven. When he's at the higher excitement levels, Scratch actually wall bounces, and you can actually potentially get really cool combos off of it from close to the corner. I don't think there was anything Pida could have done from this. Let's go back and watch it. He does the good setup, and and Rasta's instant blocking, and so he gets counter hit here. And Faust gets wall bounced. If Pida had been able to combo off of this at all, it might just have been like doing a super, or doing a Roman cancel to stabilize the combo. Not 100% sure. You can see Faust actually crawled under that orb for a little bit, but it didn't matter in this case. Yeah, and this is King Rasta's defense coming back to haunt him. And this is Pida spending 100 meter and cashing out. Pretty good. Let's look at this exact sequence. I imagine that Rasta wanted to save meter for a blitz, or maybe he was working towards a dead angle, or he didn't feel particularly threatened. Unfortunately for him, this 2D being a counter hit does kind of matter, and this scratch being a counter hit does kind of matter, because he gets popped up a little higher, I think. And then Pida spends 100 meter to RC, and goes into this combo, which normally, or spends 50 meter to RC and go into the combo. Normally that combo would be a little bit more difficult, but because of the risk and the counter hits, launching the character higher, it's just made a little bit easier. So that was winners semis. Pida is now in winners finals, so we'll see him there. I should give credit where credit's due. UFA is a really cool event, and there were a lot of really cool Guilty Gear players there. If you want to go back and watch some of the losers matches, you can find it pretty easily just by typing in UFA 2023 Guilty Gear. And you can see a lot of cool underrepresented characters in the losers bracket. Maybe the reason why they're in the losers bracket and underrepresented has something to do with it, but yeah, there's like Ramathal, Sin, Jacko, Bedman. Really cool. Anyway, now we have Niffy. Yeah, the commentators say it Niffy, so I'm going to go with Niffy. And Pida in winners finals, Soul versus Raven. The round start for Raven is that if Soul does far slash, Raven 4P, the really fast button, will beat it. And if Soul does basically anything else, then Raven 2S will beat it. So that kind of defines it. Raven can always just stance and absorb the poke. Yeah. And Pida goes for just backing off, and Niffy goes for backing off as well. I should point out that the Soul matchup in general is very volatile for Raven, and it's very difficult for him to control Soul and make him regret stuff in meaningful ways. Right there, that's kind of the issue. I'm going to rewind a bit, and we're going to see that exact glide into the jump H. So, if you're playing Raven, what you can do is you can try to time a jump H really late in the glide, and then you will snap to the ground. This is his second last frame in the air, or his last frame in the air. And if you hit with just the third hit of jump H, then you'll recover in time to block Soul doing Volcanic Viper. Unfortunately, this is actually a really annoying thing to time manually, because glide doesn't have like strict rules about when you go to the ground. It's a little more reliable to get snapped to the ground inside of a block string, like inside of a glide string, because you have control over the actual amount of time each normal puts you in the air. But in this case, you're just eyeballing it, and it's very difficult to do against Soul. And as you can see, Pida gets it correctly, but he gets it correctly, or almost correctly. He's like a couple of frames off, maybe. But the jump H actually doesn't connect with Soul, and Soul wakes up mashing. And normally this is the kind of thing you would like to prevent, but Pida unfortunately is forced to block it. And he is trying to input something else. So he gets hit low by Soul 2ing 2D. Fortunately, Niffy was autopiloting into Gunflame, so Pida is not actually in danger. That's another thing Soul can do with the dive kick and bandit bringer there. It's very easy for Soul to put out stuff that just kills Raven on counter hit, and if Raven avoids it, it's fine for both of them. And if Raven punishes it, it's not really a huge punish. The damage output is what makes this matchup so difficult for Raven, because it doesn't matter how much you control Soul if he deals 6 or 7 times your damage output off of every hit. Pida decides to burst there, and he goes for that cheeky little scratch. Niffy just got hit there for no reason. Scratch is a mid, not a low, so you'd only get hit there if you just weren't blocking. Yeah, and you can see Niffy woke up doing something, but he was caught grounded. This is a really rough orb to miss input, and you can see Pida tilt his head there. Yeah, it just happens. Playing on a stream setup, playing on different consoles or platforms, it can be awkward. Fortunately, Pida still has the huge resource advantage, and Niffy has just spent meter on a RC or something. Anti-air far slash, you can actually do that against Soul Dive Kick because the hurt box is huge. Pida tries to go for the awkward glide combo there. Let's see. He does neutral jump, late glide, into glide hit scratch. And that's an immediate glide hit scratch. So I think if he had slightly delayed it, I'm sure he was trying to do the correct thing. His execution is much better than mine. I think if he had tried to slightly delay it, then that would have connected, or if he had done glide jump H first hit, but then the scratch might not have connected. It's actually really annoying to do these combos with Raven if you don't have enough space between you and the corner, because you want to get to a very particular point in the glide trajectory. Unfortunately, if you drop him, you spend 50 meter and give Soul the opportunity to tech out, and then this happens. Fortunately, Pida keeps his cool and manages to get that round. Round start looking like movement from both players. Okay. Is this just a European thing? I don't know. Soul Jump H is a hell of a button, I gotta tell you. I like Pida bouncing off the wall there. And this is another thing Pida does. He's very, very cognizant of how to extend combos with RCs. I cannot give him enough credit for this. I would not have thought you could even do this, but he knows to extend this, goes for the glide cancel into anti-air grab. And this is also, unfortunately, an orb that is not set up properly. It's tough to do this. And you can see it actually goes off the screen a couple of frames after it appears, and it just stops existing. Some items continue to exist if they're not on the screen, but Raven's Orb stops. Fortunately, Niffius is blocking anyway. Fortunately, Niffius is spending 25 meter to do a very small amount of damage.
Trying to chase down Pida though, Niffy trying to stay on top. The Raven player.
And that's a really brave challenge from Pida on the, well, on the offense as a whole there. You'll see it come up later. And that looks stupid, but it's actually a pretty legitimate option. So Pida doesn't challenge this. Rather, he does. Sorry, he jumps out of it. And then Niffy goes for Reversal Riot Stomp, which is airborne and evasive on frame 1. And it completely screws up the Oki. Now, normally, he would go to the side of the screen and then leap, like fling himself back towards the orb and get hit. But Niffy is willing to spend 25 meter once he gets to the end, just so that he can back up. And this is the issue with trying to do Oki on Soul. Not only do you get hit out of your Oki, but you're now blocking Soul's Oki, and it's a safe jump. So have fun with that. Pida decides not to have fun. Soul runs forward under the orb. Raven backdash, showing you just how good it is. It's not good. And now, this is miserable, right? Yeah, like, Soul can just do these things, and it's very hard for Raven to stop him. I have to say, Pida doing an incredible job at running forward at Niffy after blocking 6H. Like, that's crazy. I don't know how they've played enough to get to that point in the matchup. That is one thing that Raven has on Soul, though. Round start, yeah, see, Raven tried to go for 2S, and Soul Fire Slash is fast enough that it hits him. And then Niffy goes for Fafnir, and Pida figures, well, I'm not going to get comboed, I might as well stance, because he's going to do something. And the fun thing about Fafnir is that it's plus, it gives you a full combo on hit. If you're close to the corner, it gives you a full combo on hit from counter hit anywhere. But on block, it's +2, and if you instant block, it's -2, so it's always safe. However, because of the way Raven's excitement stance absorbs attacks, Raven ignores hit stop, which means Soul is stuck in hit stop for like half a second or something, like a quarter of a second, and Raven just completely recovers. And he gets this nice sweep punish. Unfortunately, Niffy has a nice Volcanic Viper. Pida does not have a nice backdash. It just, you know, this stuff happens, you know. That was I believe that was 5H super jump instant air dash from Niffy, and congratulations, that's a hard thing to do. I've tried to do that, it's difficult. And Niffy susses out that Pida is just sitting there, so he goes in, and I think Pida wanted to save his burst for the very last hit. You can see him kind of annoyed there. Unfortunately, Raven's stun rating is so garbage that he gets stunned in the combo before he has the opportunity to burst, which means that he just loses the whole round. So you can kind of see, right? Pida has to play Raven very carefully and very delicately. Niffy can just do kind of whatever he wants with Soul, and it's difficult for Raven to punish him in a meaningful way. That was a very precise punish on Bandit Bringer to show my point, right? That's like basically the ideal punish for Raven. Most characters would not even get a punish from that range at all. And you can see it did maybe like 15%. And if that had connected, Niffy would have gotten like 20 or 30% plus the corner. Yeah, see? And he has these. Yeah, there, 30% plus the corner. Thank you. Thank you for showing my point, Niffy. Yeah. Oh, he doesn't go for the dust loop. I guess he didn't want to give Pida the opportunity to burst. He prioritizes the Oki. And that's another thing about Raven's stance, is that you ignore hit stop, but that also means you ignore block stun. So even though he absorbed the gunflame there, he was still in stance, so he still got thrown by Wild Throw. And this combo won't kill Wild Throw. Well, maybe. Wild Throw scaling is pretty harsh. No. If he knows it won't kill. Goes for cross-up Volcanic Viper in the corner. That's crazy. Pida going for the sweet combo. Unfortunately, he does the more stable variant with... I'll show you. He does the more stable variant. Normally when you do a combo like this, when you do that sweep into scratch RC combo, normally you put out the orb, and then the higher damage, higher excitement version, or the higher excitement version, is to do scratch. The soul gets juggled into the orb, and then you do dash anti-air command grab. Unfortunately, Pida goes for the more stable version, which is no scratch, just running far S, and then put soul into the orb. Unfortunately, he misses his dash input here, and soul is just kind of a little too high up and a little out of range of the anti-air grab, so it doesn't quite work out. That's a nice one, though. And Pida definitely could have comboed off of that, but I had no idea that it was going to wall bounce, so I don't blame him for not knowing that either. That's a really weird thing. Niffy once again reminding us that Volcanic Viper is crazy good, and Soul Jump H is also crazy good. And even if Pida had tried to burst that descending Jump H from Soul, he would have gotten his burst grabbed. So you really just can't do anything against that. Anyway, round start is... yeah, 2S again from Pida and far slash again from Niffy. I'm watching the exact same thing and repeat. This is crazy. Yeah, and that's nice on Pida. He could have gone for the ender, the jump D ender there, and put Niffy down, or onto the ground. But it's not often that you get to reliably combo into all 3 hits of Raven Jump H with the excitement boost. So I think he figured, Oki kind of sucks against Soul anyway, I might as well just try to keep up on damage, and I like that. As you can see, this is actually a pretty high damage combo from Raven, all things considered, because it starts with Jump S, so there's no scaling, and then... like, that's the combo before Jump H hits, and that's the rest of the combo. Like, Jump H Scratch was almost half the damage in that combo. So you can see why prioritizing damage over a knockdown is a very significant thing for Raven. That was nice, catching the Riot Stomp. Yeah, this is... no? Yeah, see, that's it. That's the issue. So I wanted to say, this is a really cool glide scratch combo from Pida, and he goes for the Oki here, and this looks like pretty real Oki. You can see Niffy tries to backdash it. Now, if you were a good character, this would be the point where Soul just gets sucked up into a very easy combo and you just kill him. But you're Raven, unfortunately, and Raven's not as stable as you might like in this version of the game. So even though the graphical effect of Scratch is going through Soul's feet, he doesn't get hit. Anyway, Needle YRC. Let's give it up for Needle YRC, shall we? Let's give it up for Needle YRC. Round start, far slash again from Niffy, and this time he's adapting. Pida goes for the stance, and Niffy just runs up and wild throws him. Goes for the burst stay fruit off of wild throw, goes for the grab again, really expecting Pida to sit still. Fortunately, Pida gets a counter hit with the first hit of Raven's standing H, and that is a ton of stagger, which gives him this combo. Sets up an orb that's not amazing, but he decides to go for the throw instead of trying to use the orb to enforce a mix-up. There, that's what happens when you do the delay jump D. I'll show this again. So this started off of a throw, mind you. This is a lot of damage to take off of a throw. And you can see Raven's here, and he sort of gets slingshotted back, and now he puts out the orb, and now Soul can't actually duck this. That's the main thing. You want to make sure that orb is low enough and close enough that it hits characters ducking. Now, if Soul did Grand Viper, he'd go underneath it, but he'd go underneath Raven too, so that's kind of fine. And this is another beautiful thing about Pida. He has the opportunity... yeah, that's the other thing. Okay, so this is the thing about Pida. Because he saves his meter all the time for Scratch RC combos, he gets... like, he's not pissing away all of his meter on Needle YRC just to try to control stuff. That's kind of a bad habit I have. So he gets this nice combo, and he realizes that it's not quite going to kill, sadly. So, rather than give Soul the opportunity to tech out and play neutral and go for damage, or by going for damage, Pida decides to go for the knockdown ender. And again, he tries to do the super duper precise TK Scratch Ender, which almost works. It's like literally 2 frames away from working, maybe 1 frame away from working. Unfortunately, Niffy gets to tech out, and the orb is just nothing. But Niffy PRCs air dashes back into the orb, and Pida gets the end of it, the end of the round. That's pretty good. Shoutouts to the Raven cosplayer who was here. He was pretty cool. Raven's not an easy character to cosplay. He's a Guilty Gear character. Not many of them are easy to cosplay. Prior to Guilty Gear Strive, anyway. Yeah, and that's what you do if you ever see Raven jumping at you or gliding at you. You just do your fastest standing normal. If you're very wired into that. Yeah, and that's another obnoxious thing. Soul Volcanic Viper being as fast as his jabs means it's very, very difficult for Raven to push any kind of frame advantage. Almost all of the things he wants to do lose to Volcanic Viper. I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that that worked out that way, but good on Niffy for stabilizing this. That was awesome. Yeah, Wild Throw again. This won't kill. No, this won't kill. Yeah, and if he goes for the OTG Gunflame, that is one of the more common OTG setups in the game. It's not, I mean, it's not quite as threatening as it looks. You can jump into the air and block the Gunflame there, like you can tech into the air. But it's difficult because even if you do that, you're still cornered against Soul. Yeah, Niffy tries to keep that combo super burst safe. Pida delays his burst, and that's what works for him. Niffy is just a teensy bit too late on the mash against Raven Glide, and so he eats this combo. Yeah. And that's generally how you... That's like the typical Raven combo. I want to show this. So you do the string that pushes your opponent far away. You do 2H scratch. And then to make it stable, Pida, and I've seen some other Ravens do this, will do a 2K to like manually time stuff just as a frame kill. I never got in the habit of doing that, but I should. And so Soul is just stuck there in space, and you get this very consistent instant air dash, glide jump S, jump H, scratch. It doesn't necessarily always go into the anti-air grab. In fact... Yeah, because Pida had no excitement at the beginning of this combo, it couldn't work like that. So he just decides to go for the second scratch and TK Orb, which makes sense. Yeah, and that's the other thing about Soul and any kind of character with evasive moves. A lot of Raven's glide strings, a lot of Raven's block strings or Gatlings have small gaps in them at range. So this is actually a 2-frame gap, or no, sorry, I thought it was /2H. That's a 2-frame gap. / into scratch is like a 4 or 5-frame gap at this excitement level. I forget exactly. The point is, it's enough for Soul to do Riot Stomp and get out of the way, and then he actually whiff punishes scratch. And you eat all of this. Safe jump, multi-hit overhead, frame trap. Okay. I swear these guys know something about what Niffy does off of 6H that I don't. Yeah, yeah, you're eating this damage and this Oki off of a DP, by the way. Soul's pretty good. Or rather, Volcanic Viper's pretty good. And again, like, it looks stupid for Niffy to play this way. I know he's a very aggressive player. It looks stupid for him to play this way and just do Volcanic Viper all the time. It's not even bad. Like, it's not a bad idea to do this. Nice gold burst from Pida. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness me. I want to go over this in frame by frame what happened here. So Niffy goes forward. Pida sees him going forward and just says, I can't do Orb YRC. Or rather, he does Orb YRC. And in the YRC slowdown, he's like, oh, Niffy's over my head. He's going to go past the YRC. I'll just jump up and air throw him, right? Unfortunately, Niffy is doing Soul Jump H, and Soul Jump H has no recovery. It just has active frames, and Raven jumps up into it, and therefore he gets hit. And he actually has time to link into Jump K on the way down. Yeah, feel yourself, Niffy. You did a move that had no counterplay. Hell yeah. I guess the counterplay would be Blitz? I don't know. It's weird because Raven wasn't actually getting hit by the jump H on the ground. He jumped up into it. So it was the fact that Pida did something that made that whole thing happen. I would have loved to talk about round start, but I guess I can't. Okay, so Pida's been dashing through Fafnir a couple of times, and that time it does not work out. Yeah, if he is very willing to challenge or to escape the orb, like he's happy to spend meter. Yeah, again, like this, Pida looks real good timing that jump H to hit Soul while he was down. I don't think he was more than a couple of frames off, but he gets hit by Volcanic Viper, and now he's eating all of this. This is a safe jump. You can't backdash it. You can't burst it. I think this kills. Yeah. Yeah, he could have done a slightly different route into Tyrant Rave or RC into something. That is one nice thing about Raven, though. You do get the opportunity to knock Soul down and like combo into stuff if you actually manage to hit him. It's just, hitting him is surprisingly difficult. If I go back in time here, you can see if he's like, oh, I'm just going to back up, I'm going to do jump H. And Pida thought, okay, you're backing up, I will glide. You're not going to anti-air me. And he does jump S. Raven jump S, normally a very good button, but it's not Soul jump H, so it loses. Yeah, and you can see, like, the mental stack of Niffy, like the way of playing the game is sort of bleeding into Pida now, and he just feels like he has to do stuff constantly. Anyway, I want to point out, this is how you can tell Niffy's actually good at the game and not just a mindless monkey, although he is, but, you know, I love you, Niffy. Je t'aime, Niffy. He does Fafnir to start a combo here, and the thing about Soul's combos is that normally, after a dust loop like this, you would do Fafnir, and then you'd run forward as your opponent is tumbling on the ground, do 6p5h, and then go into an ender or something. Niffy does not do that, and instead he goes for microdash close slash. I'll slow down. Or just regular close slash. Because if Raven had hit the ground after being hit by the second Fafnir in a combo, he just would have gotten knocked down. So the fact that Niffy is aware of what would happen, and the fact that he rooted around it, he did a combo around it, is really, really high level stuff. That's not an easy combo to do, and it's not an easy combo to recognize. Unfortunately for Pida, he takes a shit ton of damage, and this time, yeah. Yeah. That's a Soul round. That's what happens in this matchup sometimes. But fist bumps all around. We're just playing a game. We're having fun. It's all good. Alright, we're looking at Soul, I guess. I've taken a pretty long break between recording the previous sections and recording one due to personal reasons. So if I sound different, it's because I've changed my microphone settings and hopefully I have improved them. I've tried to avoid the loudness and to sort of make it so that you can focus on my voice a bit easier. So, with that all out of the way, let's get into Losers Finals. Pida playing Raven versus War Bandit playing Sin. Now, War Bandit, you didn't see in this video, but I think he's a player who likes to do a little bit too much fake stuff. You see he gets a combo here, and he goes for the fakest reset in the world. Pida takes his burst, puts him in the corner, and now he's blocking. Pida also gets a fake pressure reset. Well, I guess all of Raven's pressure resets are kind of fake, but, you know, I get the impression that War Bandit is just sort of playing by instinct. Kind of asleep at the wheel. Yeah, so Pida's just been running him over and mauling him this set so far, or this game so far. I should also point out, Pida goes for Scratch RC here. This is Pida feeling really, really comfortable. Because normally, if you're Raven, if you look at the excitement, you can see that Raven has less than level 2. So this is purely just the cash out on meter. Like, this is just Pida feeling comfortable, because he's not going to get a combo off of this command grab. He's just going to keep corner position and give himself a damage boost. Like, you can see, right? I actually think he could have done a bit of a different combo there and gotten the kill, but like, this is, like, doing 3 scratches in a row like that is a pure dominance assertion. Like, Hey bro, I think you're so stupid you're gonna run into a minus on block mid. It's not even plus, a minus on block mid at the third time that I do it. So he does 5H here, both hits. K, KPS, PS. Yeah, I think it's hard to say, but I think if he had done like just SPS, jump, SH, this might have killed, because there's a slight difference, but War Bandit not handling the corner pressure very well, so it doesn't really matter. Now, I will say, this matchup, although Pida makes it look easy, I do think it's a little bit easier for Sin to play than it is for Raven, just because Sin is a much more stable character than Raven is. And Sin kind of starts off the round good, whereas Raven has to work for it. Although, if you look at Pida, he's certainly making it look easy. And War Bandit is also making it look really easy. This is going to kill. Even if the first super doesn't kill, Raven can do... Okay, yeah, just killed. Raven can do the stab super into OTG stab super in the corner like that. And Pida loves doing that. I played him like last year, at the early part of last year, and he did that to me like 10 times. The man loves landing stab supers. I'm also going to rag on War Bandit just a little bit here, because he does something that's actually pretty decent, which is IAD jump Vulture Seas, which is actually pretty good. I think he could do 5H here. Yeah, he could definitely do 5H there. If you got enough time to input the dash and run like that, let's see how many frames. So this is him, his first frame dashing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, okay, he could have done 5H, because 5H has 11 frame startup. Would have been a bit weird to time, though. Wow. Yeah, Pida just... Man. War Bandit not having a very good time trying to escape everything Pida's doing. But he messes up his orb again, but it's fine. Yeah, and that's unblockable. So Raven's anti-air grab is an unblockable strike. So as soon as War Bandit spends his double jump here, the only thing that he could do in order to stall, like the only thing he can do, the thing that he's forced to do, is to come down into the orb. And this orb, because Raven is at level 3 excitement, has 4 hits, and the hits are attack level 4, I think. So that means you're going to be stuck blocking it for like nearly a full second, so Raven can just reach up and air unblockable you. Because of the way Guilty Gear handles air throws and air states and everything, anything that goes from ground to air is actually a strike. So Raven's upwards grab, Eno's sterilization method, and I forget exactly which. Yeah, there may be like one other. I'm not sure if Potemkin's Heavenly Potemkin Buster does something similar, because I believe that counts as both a grab and a strike. Like, it's a grab because you can't blitz it. Well, it's a super. Whatever. Point is, as soon as he mindlessly double jumped here, War Bandit was going to eat the unblockable. The only thing he could have done to challenge that would have been to blitz on his way down into the projectile and try to take the blitz invincibility down to the ground. And then that would have just been him jumping up, spending 25 meter, and being in the exact same situation. But at this point, he's lost the round. Yeah, and Pida doesn't even have to do Destroyer, which is the stab super, because if he had done that, then War Bandit would have gotten his burst back. Rounds start looking like, okay, War Bandit finally just decides to back off, but he's not handling the stance well, he's just swinging into it. Wow. That was also not a mix-up, did you see that? So Pida gets this hit. Beautiful dash through. So he gets this hit, and he does no Oki at all. I love the slash effect on Raven. He does no Oki at all, just a mid. War Bandit does not twitch into it, but War Bandit baits the anti-air but does not punish. See, now this is actually dangerous territory. Oh my, never mind. Wow, yeah, Pida hard baiting the burst again. War Bandit just eat while you're seeing just so he doesn't die immediately. This is going to be a lot of damage though. So Sin, I guess this is a Raven video, but Sin could have done the Voltic Dane projectile super there, and I think that may have been the better choice because he would have been able to eat. Because after this combo, okay, well he drops it anyway, so yeah, I guess it would have been better to finish your combo. Yeah, Pida really not threatened.
Oh, and this should be it.
JoJo pose.
Yeah, there's not too much to say here. Pida is just completely running roughshod over him. But Warbandit does have one potential game to figure out the Raven matchup and not get smoked. Nice air throw. Yeah. Oh, no combo. No Oki. Nothing. It's alright. Okay, so Warbandit gets the hit here. Did you see he did that 2K? There's not really much to say from Pida's perspective because he's just playing really well. So Warbandit gets the hit here, and then he tries to do leap. I think he tries to do leap because that 2K sometimes comes out if you try to do leap, which is a K input. Either that or he tried to do elk hunt to close the distance, which I don't think would have been a very good idea at all. Because you can see Warbandit is low on food here. So this means when you're in the yellow, you can only do 3 special moves total before you go hungry, or you can do 1 special into a special cancel, and that will make you hungry. So basically you can only do 2 special moves. So if you'd done elk, then he would have had exactly 1 special move left for pressure and combo. And if he had done leap, then I don't think it would have hit. I don't think it would have led to any good Oki. And this hurts. One quirk of Exerd's damage scaling system. So you see when Pida does the Roman cancel here, the screen goes dark. And then the screen lights up just as he's about to connect with that. If you connect with a move during the screen being dark, which is about, it's almost a second, I think it's about like 4/5 of a second or something, then there's more damage scaling. It's about 50% damage scaling on the rest of the combo. But if you wait a little bit, then you get better damage scaling. I think it's 30%, or like 70% rather. So that doesn't seem like a big difference, but when you're juiced up with Raven and you've got like a 27% damage boost to everything you do, it means that this grab here does a huge chunk. Oh yeah, Pida's going for the, and Pida gets to go for the good combo there. Pida sort of reels back in his chair again. Did you see that? He reels back in his chair like, or he twists his head. Was that a jump H? I did not do that. I did orb. Yeah, we've all been there. Stream setup, lag, etc. Yeah. Reversal orb. I love it. Oh, with punish. Okay, Warbandit, what can you do? 4 jump these.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that's the face of a man who doesn't know what he's doing. It's either laugh or cry, I guess. That's the first command grab on block Pida's done this whole set. I also want to point out he's really in Warbandit's head now. Because Warbandit's like panicking, he's shaking his head, and then Pida just backdashes, and he's like, oh, you whiffed your DP. Thank you for the free counter hit. And Raven 5H second hit lets him IAD and get a combo. Oh, that was almost a sick combo. Oh, sick reset. It's all good. More jump Ds. Oh, goes low that time. Pida spends a meter to get out of the corner, and now he gets this combo. I wonder if Pida could have, after setting up this orb, if he could have gotten another anti-air grab, because it's actually pretty fast startup. Maybe, I'm not sure if the position would have been right.
From the YRC, not want to deal with any of the shenanigans coming out from Shin today.
Both players banishing. Pida, yeah. Oh, that was cool. That was cool, actually. That was really cool. I'd forgotten about that. So again, War Bandit just wakes up twitching. What did he even do? I'm really curious. What did he even do? So he gets hit. Oh, he's trying to do Beak Driver. Okay. I guess that makes sense. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't make sense. Pida's clearly up before you. Why would you try to poke? Whatever. I'm not French. I don't know. So yeah, Pida takes that one pretty convincingly and moves on to grand finals on the loser side. So grand finals is Niffy on player 1 side playing Soul versus Pida, our boy Raven, on player 2 side. Beautiful Raven player versus filthy, disgusting Frenchman. Sorry, I mean Soul bad guy player. So the Soul matchup is an interesting one for Raven. It's one of the more common matchups you'll run into online. People on NetPlay love Soul. It's good on paper, but it's extremely volatile in practice, and depending on your tastes, it may even be bad for Raven. Soul is really good at doing incredibly stupid stuff that's hard to punish, like using his air normals, jump H, etc., using Volcanic Viper, using Grand Viper, using Riot Stomp. Immediately, Pida gets a fairly clutch anti-air of 5H. Yeah, so this is going to be one of the few times where we get a nice juicy starter for Raven, and you're going to see the damage differential between him and Soul. So basically no damage because Pida wanted Oki, right? Because that's what you do when you play Raven. However, it's worth noting that all the Oki in the world doesn't matter if your opponent is actually capable of blocking. Which Niffy is, because despite the kind of monkey-like way he approaches the game, he is actually a pretty good player. Very nice whiff punish by Pida. Unfortunately, he goes for the sweep instead of the far S2H. That's one of the more aggravating things about the matchup, is Gunflame not going away on hit for Soul. That was kind of a bit of a messy situation. Yeah, Pida willing to burst there. Tries to YRC. He spent all of his meter on YRCs, you see that? Niffy has just been moving forward, now he finally does a YRC of his own. Gonna do a dust loop here. And this is when I knew that Niffy was actually really good at the game. So, Soul's Fafnir, as you can see, has this neat little property where it knocks you into a tumble state. And when you're tumbling like this, technically you are just airborne and you are along the ground. However, some moves in the game have weird hit properties, like Soul Fafnir. It's mostly just Soul Fafnir and like maybe 2 other moves. And if you use them in a combo twice, that property doesn't work. This effect is called Same Move Proration by stupid nerds who don't know how to translate things into English. I guess proration is fine, but essentially you're just removing the hits, or the hit effects of a move that you're using twice. It varies because in other games with this effect, with this mechanic like BlazBlue, the number of times you can use a move and the type of effect it has in terms of what it loses is variable. But in this game it's really straightforward. So, normally, Soul would do a dust loop here, and he would run after the dust loop and as you're tumbling, he would do like 6B5H, jump the dive kick. However, Niffy cannot do that because if Raven touches the ground again, he goes into a knockdown state. And that can be useful in certain combos, but generally when you're melting somebody like this, and you don't have to worry about any tension, and you don't have to worry about any burst, and he's just taking a lot of damage, you kind of just want to do maximum damage. So in order to do that, you need to do the second Fafnir like this, where it hits really high. And then you have to do a microdash close slash. And he just goes for Bandit Revolver to end the combo, which is fair, because that makes the most sense. It's the most stable. It's also worth noting basically all of the jump-ins that Soul gets after a combo are safe jumps. They might not be on every character, but Raven's only reversals are Stance, which is 5 frames, which doesn't beat meaties, or his super, which he doesn't have, which is 7 frames total, which is actually somewhat slow for reversals. Yeah, Pida playing very nervously. You can see he's just backing up. Beautiful mash, had to challenge. And that's another thing that Niffy's actually pretty good about. He did Riot Stomp, YRC, So instead of flinging himself back into the projectile, he cancels out in the air, and now he gets a combo with Volcanic Viper. Or he kind of does anyway. Guilty Gear is messy, that's kind of what I like about it. Raven stance, very nice for punishing things.
Nice setup in this corner right now, though, but the reactions from Neffy right there, just to go for the low kick, just to go to 2K2D.
Ooh, yeah, Pida reels back into the chair. That was not the way to burst. I would have... I understand the hero burst. I probably would have done the same thing, or worse. But man, it is a rough mistake to make. Okay, speaking of bursts whiffing, we have a gold burst whiffing. Oh, counter hit Fafnir. Again, I think he's going to do the microdash close slash combo again. Yeah. Oh, he tried to go for a different ender this time. The reason why you might want to do that ender is because it sets up better Oki. So if Soul does the 6H here, it knocks down, and then he can do a very late cancel into Gunflame. And the Gunflame will sort of hit as it's leaving the screen, ideally if you time it properly, and it's like double digit plus, like 13 to 15 or something. Unfortunately for him, Pida was too high up, so that does not work. That was really awkward. Okay. This is a great opportunity to talk about Raven's stance. So Raven, despite what a lot of people think about him, actually has a sort of an awkward time anti-airing. Not because his anti-airs are bad, but simply because they all cover very different angles. So, like, he could 6P this, but 6P is difficult to combo off of. Also, Soul will recover, see? And Raven 5P and 5K would potentially lose to Soul doing another jump H. So Pida just goes for the more reliable option, which is to stance the jump in, and then yellow Roman cancel out of the stance. And because of the way Stance's armor works, this generally works. So what Diffie does, because he's a Soul player and he's an animal, is he does jump in Volcanic Viper, tries to Roman cancel it even though he doesn't have 50 meter. Niffy, what are you doing? And Pida gets pushed back while he's armored, tanks the first hit, tanks the second hit, and he instantly goes to excitement level 3, which makes his damage output actually kind of compete with Soul's. Pardon me, all this forward and backwards screwed up the video player. So, and he does get the... Pida does start dashing underneath to punish Soul, but because of the momentum and everything, and because of Soul doing the follow-up to the DP, which makes him stall in the air a bit, Pida mistimes his punish. He was going to go for a punish on Soul as he was falling there, not after he hit the ground.
Ball finally getting filled this time around.
Also, another thing about excitement is that it makes the slowdown effect from Needle last longer. It lasts for 2.5 seconds at the highest excitement level, at level 3, which is pretty crazy. That's plus. That's an air block string. That is a Soul Bad Guy exclusive. Cool blitz combo. If you probably try and input DP or something. Yeah, and that was a beautiful combo from Pida. So, when he gets the combo here, he's doing a single hit confirm because he's attempting to frame trap with the first hit of 5H, or maybe he's just doing a pressure reset. Either way, he gets the combo and goes into a glide, or he gets the hit and goes into a glide. And Raven, for whatever reason, has kind of an absurd amount of hit stop, or untech time, or stagger time, with some of his H button counter hits. For the first hit of 5H and for 6H, it's like 2 seconds. It's an incredibly long time. So you get a full instant air dash glide combo. And Pida, having built enough excitement to go to level 2, gains an additional hit on the orb, which means he can do this combo, where you do scratch RC, put out the orb, and then juggle your opponent into the orb. And then, yeah, he could have done even more from there. Even if he couldn't kill, then he could set up an orb with like 4 hits that was inescapable. Okay, Niffy's having a good time. But you can see, right? That was, well, it looks like 30% of Soul's life bar, maybe 20%. But because of the way Guts works, this is actually like probably functionally like 10% of his life bar. It's not a ton of damage for a very dumb risk, and even though he's in the corner blocking Raven, Soul's kind of fine.
And I set up the glide in.
CP is just backing off, right?
Backward once again. 5k to hit, but no problem to get fair.
Yeah, and that's the risk of doing stance too much. If Soul decides to do nothing, he just runs up and wild throws you. And this time, that was the first Fafnir he used in the combo, so he was allowed to let Pida go to ground. I also want to point out that anytime, if you're coming from Strive, it may feel like this was a punish, because Raven instant blocked and he threw Soul as soon as he landed. Technically speaking, this is not actually a punish, because there's no landing recovery. So you can see Soul goes from being airborne to being on the ground, and then he's acting basically immediately, and Pida's throwing him. So, yeah, there's really no landing recovery universally. In Strive, there are lots of little levels of landing recovery, little durations, depending on the move. There's lots of different numbers of frames that you'd be landing. But in this game, it's really only jump, dust attacks, and special moves that cause it. Yeah, Pida decides to end in the damage route there. And this is nice.
Right there. Can Pida end it to get this first game? No, but we're going to go into another setup. High-low, going to be ghost by 50.
Good effort to be able to push Pida out, but...
Yeah, you can see the difference in combo ability for Raven when he has 0 levels of excitement, or level 1, compared to having level 3. When he's got resources, it's like running water. It's great. When he's got nothing, it sucks. Round start stance actually pretty decent against Soul. I should also touch on the round start RPS because it's really simple versus Soul. So at round start, before Soul runs forward. So round start, from this distance, Raven, like everything Raven does, loses the Soul Far Slash, because Soul Far Slash is 7 frames. However, Soul does not get a combo off of Soul Far Slash. However, so a Raven can counterpoke that by using 4P, which is 5 frames, because Soul will extend his hurt box into the move. And if Soul wants to do something to beat Raven 4P, then he has to do something slower that has a better hitbox, like 5H. If Soul wants to do that, everything he does loses to Raven 2S or Raven Far Slash or Raven 5H. So Pida, basically, if you're Raven in this matchup, you can either try to stance to grab the Far Slash, or take the Far Slash, or you can do a button to beat the Far Slash, because it's all kind of defined by Soul Far Slash, even though he doesn't get a combo. In this case, Nifty just runs up because he kind of expects Pida to do that. And he's already representing Wild Throw. Now we can do a Fafnir. I'm not sure what that was supposed to be. I guess it was just a combo drop. Happens. Yeah, Pida tried to go for a throw there. Didn't quite work out for him. Now Nifty's going to spend meter. Took him down. That was a 6pH throw OS. You can learn about that in Guilty Gear Xrd's mission mode. If you're not sure if your opponent is going to land and do a low, or do a meaty jump in, or do an air dash, then you can do 6pH, and if he lands and does low, he's inside of throw range, so he gets thrown. And if he's doing an air dash, then he has to spend time in his air dash before he can do anything, so he gets hit by the 6P. Some disclaimers may apply if your character has a bad 6P. In which case, don't lose round start, I guess. Yeah, so that's basically it. And unfortunately, he does not confirm the combo properly, but he does get to keep the side switch anyway. That was just a really awkward situation. That's also the kind of thing that Soul can do. He creates these incredibly obnoxious situations where all of his normals are faster than yours, and all of his normals are easier to just do and throw out. Now that time, Pida did do the jump H safe glide, and I want to give him credit for that, because that is not easy. I'm assuming it hit. I'm going to assume that it was good. Attaboy, Pida. You're cool. Yeah, and it looks like Pida's just running around, but I remember I asked him about this, And I asked him, what was your approach to the Soul matchup? And he realized that at some point, he couldn't just stop Niffy from doing crazy stuff, especially on Wake Up or RC to Dust. So his goal was just back up, stop doing Oki, and stop like taking any kind of risk, and just wait for an opportunity. The issue is that if you give Soul an opportunity, sometimes it turns out like this.
And it is pressure on pressure. No chance to go to the XP stand. They're anti-air with the 5K.
Yeah, Pida gonna find the burst.
To try and keep this round alive.
Does a bit of frame trapping.
Has to stay on the offensive.
Yeah.
Not give Nippy the opportunity.
Anti-air 2H. I love Raven. And that's another thing that Soul can do in this matchup. Riot Stomp, because it is frame 1 airborne and lunging backwards, evades basically everything Raven can do off of Far Slash, except for Needle. And if he felt like he needed to make or rather, Pida felt like he needed to make a play there, so he did grab, and then the Riot Stomp just completely avoided that. Another thing that Pida told me about is that, which I think Raven players have been discovering, is that you can just throw out Orb in this matchup, in some matchups, and the fact that it just occupies space for like 2 seconds is really good. Nice dead angle. Nice tech forward buttons. I love Exerd. Okay, weird situation. Works out for Raven. Nice. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out for him, letting him combo into the orb. Yeah, that's another awkward thing. So Raven's Oki is generally pretty easy bake, and it generally works. But when he puts out the orb this time... Yeah, so this is So, normally, when you do sweep into Scratch with excitement level 3, you can see the really crazy face here. That means you can do TK Orb, and it will hit against basically everybody. Soul has a fairly fast wake-up timing. I do think it works on him. But Pida just values the screen position, and he just says, look, I want to put out this orb so that you can't jump. And if he says, okay, I won't jump, and Raven says, cool, or Pida says, cool, I'll run up and throw you. Problem is that Raven's throw hit stun gets overwritten by the orb hit stun, and it completely messes up the combo. And you can see Pida doing like jump backwards. I think he was trying to combo off of the orb, but it doesn't quite work. And so Niffy gets the opportunity to go in now. And Pida decides, well, why the hell not, right? Okay, and I guess Niffy just decides to drop his combo or something, or go for some kind of weird reset. I don't know. The pace of this game and the pace of this matchup is really fast. That anti-air grab was supposed to be a close slash. That's happened to me. Live Pida reaction. The Pida head tilt becoming a common mainstay in this tournament. You hate to see it. Nobody likes input errors. That's fine. And that's another thing about Raven. Even though you can't challenge frame traps from Soul very effectively, you can sort of stance them. And that's kind of like challenging them if you sort of squint. Now that was a much more respectable combo. And he gets a... No! No, Pida, no. I was gonna say he gets a nice combo, or a nice punish there, but he doesn't. Yeah, that's a pretty standard Soul RC combo. That's a lot of damage. So, I want to say... So, Pida hits with the Needle YRC here, and he goes for the corner escape. Raven's generally pretty bad at escaping the corner, so he generally needs to spend meter or do something to do it. And he goes for the low here. Niffy is backdashing to reposition. And he gets hit airborne by the sweep, which means he gets juggled up, or he hit up out of the scratch range. Now, fortunately, he techs back, but you can see he doesn't really go anywhere. See, he barely goes like in a 1 character length, if that. Yeah, like he barely moves. It's like from here to here. So what you're worried about as Raven is Soul doing forward tech into jump S or jump H, or jump D if you think it's going to be a counter hit. Usually just jump S. Or jump H. Honestly, they're all good. But because Raven's has the slow effect on Soul, Soul's horizontal movement speed is cut in half, and that means all horizontal movement, including tech, including movement, including If he were playing Slayer, Slayer gets his teleport dash slowed down because Slayer just turns invisible and invincible and then moves forward, as opposed to Chip, who truly teleports and does not get slowed down. Stuff like that. Anyway, this is looking decent for Raven because he gets this hit. Unfortunately, as soon as I say that, the excitement drains. Pida goes for the air throw, does not quite work. And now Niffy's going to keep it simple. Good block. And again, Pida willing to spend meter just to get out of the corner. That was an enormous air throw, but it was clutch, and I love it. Yeah, you see? So Riot Stomp does not avoid the needle in that situation. You see how scrambly this matchup is, right? Partially that's just Guilty Gear, partially that's just the Soul matchup. Every Soul matchup is like that for every character. Pida now puts himself up 2-1, working towards a reset. Nice whiff punish on Raven 5H with the Fafnir. There, see? That's the same move effect. There you go. See? Immediate knockdown. Like I said, there are some times that you would want to do this, but generally, this is a bad thing. I'm not entirely sure why Niffy did this. I guess he just wanted to jump at Pida. Yeah, nice blitz on the orb. Yeah, and Pida actually goes for Needle YRC, so he screws up the timing and gets Needle RRC instead. Tries to go for a scratch loop, screws it up, sad. Happens. And that's another thing I was talking about with Raven having awkward anti-airs. So you can see he does, this is like 2 awkward anti-airs in a row. I'm just gonna slow it down. So he does, I think he correctly sees the tech and reacts to it. And he does 5P, which I believe is still active at this point, but Soul is tiny when he's doing jump P. So he connects. And then Pida resets the situation, and he does dash forward 6P, which would have probably hit if Soul were any other character and had whiff recovery on jump H. But he doesn't, so he whiffs a jump move and then does dive kick. And because Raven's... Obviously, no character would have like an anti-air normal that hits this. Maybe Kai 2H, probably not. But because Raven is all about like choosing the right normal for the right situation, and he whiffed, therefore he gets punished and he dies. I think like Venom or maybe Sin could whiff 6P in this and still recover in time to anti-air it, which is pretty crazy. And I think that those characters' 6Ps are perhaps a little better than they need to be, but that's a different topic. Yeah, and you see, like, Niffy is just, like, flailing around and doing Fafnirs, and it forces Pida to do something. That's 4 Fafnirs! Bandit Bringer! 5 Fafnirs! This one's a counter hit. We've all been there. Micro dash, close slash, yeah. And that's the combo he wanted with the juicy, meaty gunflame. This is totally impossible to challenge. Pida just decides to spend his meter on FD. If he decides to reposition. Yeah. Also, I want to point out, when Raven does jump D like this, generally, the knockdown you get from this is not very good. You don't have time to instant air dash. Like, if Raven had just done jump D, fall to the ground, he can't do IAD and, like, apply the standard mix-up here. Some people, if they don't know the matchup, will just sit there anyway and let you do it, but Niffy obviously is... Well, he's doing stuff on Wake Up, so Pida does not want to guess in that situation. Also, you can see that Pida is cognizant of Niffy not having a burst, and cognizant of his huge meter advantage over Niffy. So, he just says, look, I'm going to do jump D, I'm going to hit you with Needle OTG. This used to be a really popular combo for Raven back when he was a boring character, because it's super consistent. And Niffy, I believe he does not tech. He does not tech. So now Pida gets to go in and apply some Oki, and that sort of makes the situation unstable in a way that is good for Raven, which is unusual. Basically, either you take the OTG and you sit still and I get to run up on you, or you try to tech out of it, you don't go anywhere, and I can maybe whiff punish you or run up or something. So no matter what you do, it's pretty good for Raven. Yeah, now he's just trying to press his advantage with YRC Needle while it lasts. And if he finally cracks at the very end, yeah. And that is the thing about Gunflame. Gunflame's a really obnoxious, really good projectile, but if you do it close like that, and especially if it's instant blocked, it's unsafe. Both characters running forward, one of them's invincible, one of them's not.
Let's see what you can do, Nippy. You said no reset, man. I want to see if you can keep your word.
Oh, YRC straight into ecstasy stance.
I love the orb into YRC, by the way. I've been doing this in some of my matches. And especially with the stance, it really, really forces your opponent to do something incredibly awkward. In this case, if he just recovers, and because Soul was doing a sweep, and it was Soul's sweep, he doesn't get hit. But now he has to hold this and he gets hit. Raven building excitement. Also, shout out to the commentator referring to that mechanic as ecstasy and not excitement. I love it when people who play this game talk about it. Sorry, it annoyed me so much I missed this whole interaction. Stare down, jump into nothing. That's also really nice because you bait out responses from your opponent. If he had 100 meters, so he spent 50 of it on dead angle. Unfortunately, Pida thought the orb would run out, so he does 2D scratch, which knocks Niffy up into the orb. Or rather, the 2D knocks Niffy up into the orb, and he techs out over the scratch. And instead of taking the combo and doing Oki, he goes for a dirty, disgusting reset. Filthy Frenchman, sorry, I mean Soul player. Pida, live Pida reaction, patented Pida head tilt. We all feel that way. And this hurts.
We've got the ball, we've got the tension.
Yeah.
We have the next mix after this.
Oh, black beat. That's a shame. Yeah, he baits the dead angle. That was supposed to be wild throw and it would have worked. Yeah, Niffy knows that he screwed up the input for wild throw. Pida knows that he kind of fumbled that situation. Cameraman just completely ruining it for all of us. Thank you very much. Okay, it's only been 6 seconds and someone's in the corner. I love Guilty Gear. Yeah.
My man is fighting through it though, does not care for the ecstasy, only cares for the damage.
Have I mentioned that I don't like these commentators? Whatever. So Niffy gets this hit, and now Pida has basically no resources. He's going to build 1 bar just from getting hit in the combo. So FD or Blitz? Probably FD, right? Yeah. I like that. That was actually really smart from Niffy to get hit by this, and, well, not to get hit, but when he gets hit by this, he sees that the orb is really far behind him, because Pida kind of autopiloted that. That's what you do when you expect the orb to hit, because if you don't, then you end up canceling it a bit too late, and it doesn't quite hit meaty ever, even if you get the right distance. So now Niffy's like, you know, this is weird, I don't think this is going to hit me. And he does reversal Fafnir. One of Soul's less seen reversals. Pida gets a nice hit and pushes Niffy into the corner. Yes, and that's the situation where Raven 6P is extremely good. There are not many ground normals in Exer that reach up like this. Like, look how far up Soul is. One day I'll get a real way of viewing replays that doesn't involve screwing with the video player playback speed, but today is not that day. Anyway, Soul is actually like really high above Raven here. Venom 6P, which is like the best 6P in the game, might only go like here. And Sin 6P might hit this. I think Sin 6P probably would, but there are not many that would. Anyway, Raven 6P is like a rectangle that goes up here, so it does hit Soul, and that's really nice. And because Soul is a heavier character, when he gets hit, it's not too hard to confirm into the anti-air grab.
Oh my days! Huge burst! Go burst, Fafnir! Into the corner!
Where's the burst?
Okay. If he really trying to take Pida's burst there, Pida wisely holds on to it.
Opportunity now. It's a wild throw, ties it up 2 games each.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I like this game a lot.
At 77 miles per hour, just to grab this man by the scuff of his collar
So now
and
it's
say,
2-2.
"Now, I'm gonna do it my own way."
Oh yes, that was another thing I wanted to talk about. I remember watching this in real time and trying to figure out what happened. Because you can see Soul is whiffing jump H above Raven's head. Ignore these counter hit notifications. They have nothing to do with what's going on. And then 2 frames later, Raven's getting hit. And what happened is that Pida tried to jump up and air-to-air, probably with a throw. And unfortunately, he raised his head into Soul's active frames of jump H. Which means that he got hit for trying to anti-air Soul, even though Soul is nowhere near him. So even when Soul isn't jumping at you directly, it's still really hard to anti-air him, and that's kind of just how the character works.
I'm gonna do it my own way.
Yeah, and Soul almost gets a full combo off of that. Pida, that was probably a frustration burst, honestly.
In front. Maybe.
It's like, I'm so meter efficient. I only cost 25 meter as opposed to every other airline which costs 50 meter.
Yeah. And again, you can see the mileage that Raven Orb is doing for Pida. Because Niffy is... Oh, no. Okay. Well, Niffy is escaping. But previously, Niffy was not escaping. He was just sitting there, just respecting the orb. Understood it would be too awkward to go into the air. Pida, I think, tried to... I don't know, maybe it was just an input error, but I think he tried to go for an extremely precise TK scratch route here. Or it was just an input error, like, I don't know. There are TK scratch routes you can do off of throw in the corner. And they involve, like, throw, and your opponent goes up, and then comes down, and then you do, like, TK scratch, and then you juggle into, like, 5P or something else. I forget exactly. I've learned exactly one of them, and I think I've done it maybe like 4 times in my entire time playing this game. It's really, really hard. Pida doesn't get punished for it a ton, though, because Niffy just goes for the 2P mash. This time Niffy does YRC gunfling YRC, so even though Pida instant blocks it, he can't punish Niffy. After catching Raven's garbage backdash, Raven probably has the single worst backdash in the game. Again, Niffy going for the more advanced combo for the better Oki. Doesn't quite work.
Running back in, chasing down Shadowman himself, but Raven is ready. Peter's gonna get the full combo. Gets around the command.
Live Pida reaction, live Niffy reaction, pardon me.
Niffy is around the way from winning Exxon here.
That's what goes through a Soul player's mind every time that he connects with Riot Stomp under any circumstances. Yeah, this is... I actually have to agree with the commentator for once. That is basically a perfect sequence for Raven. That round is something that you should try to emulate as much as humanly possible whenever you play Raven. Minus, perhaps, the hard read on the burst.
Final round here at UFA.
Is Peter gonna reset, or will Niffy take it all? Fafnir once more. It's the XD stance.
That's another thing I want to describe about stance.
Here at UFA.
So, Soul Fafnir, if you're coming from Strive, it causes a guard crush, and if you're coming from plus R or any of the old games, it's garbage on block, sometimes unsafe on hit. However, in Exerd, it cranks the risk gauge by like 30%. Depends on character, because risk bar multiplier is character specific. Raven's is normal, I think. And it also is +2, which does not sound that scary, except Soul being plus always kind of sucks. So Niffy gets the hit here, pushes his advantage, does another Fafnir, and you'd think Raven being in, tanking the hit with the excitement stance would mean that Soul is even more plus, because Raven's blocking, right? He has to go to the stance. But the way that Raven's excitement stance works is that he ignores hit stop. So Raven goes through all of this recovery into the 2H, while Soul is stuck in hit stop of his move. In fact, if you're really precise with your timing and you begin to exit the stance before Soul hits you with Fafnir, you can actually get counter hit 2H. Like you punish Soul during the active frames of Fafnir because he's stuck in hit stop. It's really cool. However, if Pida gets 2H into scratch, and that's pretty fine. And you can see that's another thing regarding the don't do Oki to Soul. Pida just goes for glide cancel nothing, needle force the issue. However, in that time, Nifty instant blocks and he manages to challenge. Soul player's mashing on 2D. Oh dear. Yeah, Super beat blitzes. So when Raven goes up to the sky here, he super jumps. Raven Needle actually does leave you actionable afterwards. It just takes a long time. So you can do stuff like this occasionally.
What's the mix?
Good blocks on the overhead. Gets clipped by the needle counter hit. Gets picked up.
And good for Pida to go for the damage route there and reset the bracket. So this, if this had been me, this is such a weird hit that I don't know what I would have done. But Pida, calm, cool, collected, goes for 5H, jump S, scratch, and kills on the final hit. That is one of the nice things about Raven when he's got excitement. You can just go for the damage, and the damage is actually quite significant. Live Raven reaction. Shoutouts to the cosplayer. He was pretty cool. Alright, grand finals after the reset. Pida coming in on a full head of steam. Seems like he's figured out something about Niffy, figured out something about the matchup, and we'll see how far that gets him in another first to 3. Beautiful air throw. Fearless glide in. Oh no, combo. Live Pida reaction. Hate to see it. You can do a proper scratch loop here though. Yeah, there we go. So now Niffy finally gets to escape the corner. I wonder if that 6H RC was supposed to be Fafnir RC, because 6H doesn't really accomplish anything there. Unfortunately, Pida puts himself in the corner now, and if he decides to push his advantage, Pida whiffs jump H because he wanted air throw, but that means he gets jump H instead, but that's fine because Raven jump H is good. I wonder if he could have 6P'd here instead. Because I like the idea. Yeah, jump S from this height. I think you could 6P this, but it might have been hard to 6P jump H. And you're safe because you're under the ball anyway, under the orb, pardon me. Niffy in love. Yeah, absolutely in love with Fafnir. Getting a nice combo. And that's the Oki that you want. It's very plus. Pida with no resources to challenge any of it but air throw. That's like the second clutch air throw he's gotten in the entire round, or just in this first round alone. Pida fearlessly holding forward at round start and being invincible. Yeah, again, like even... I'm not going to say whether this was like correct or not. I think this was more mashing as like a read. So this was 1, 2... Yeah. No, I think this was like pretty good. I think he was like probably only a few frames away from punishing Gunflame here. Okay, maybe not a few frames. But basically, if Soul hits you with the first or the second pillar of Gunflame, it's like... Sorry, the first one is like minus, sometimes unsafe. The second one is like sometimes plus, sometimes minus, depending on active frames and instant blocking. So I like this mash from Pida. I think it makes a lot of sense. Pida finally punishing a DP, punishing a burst, whiffing, clashing jump H. Oh my god, Pida, you're so handsome. You're so handsome to get this combo. And the mix-up is dead angle. Immediate glide again. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, oh, also fun fact, when Raven is in level 3 excitement, instead of getting a tick to refresh the excitement drain timer, because if normally if Raven does not gain excitement for 10 seconds, he loses it. But instead of gaining a tick, you can just go into stance until his head rolls all the way back and then come out of it, and that refreshes it. This is completely invisible, and it is not a documented change anywhere, but that is how it works. Thank you, Daisuke. Or Patchy, actually. Thank you, Patchy. Yeah, Pida, that was really awkward. He actually could have gotten a rejump there, but he pretty reasonably figured that he wouldn't have time to do it. Nifty going for dive kick loops. Pida going to take the round with a nice tech forward buttons. Now, normally when Soul does that OTG into Gunflame, it's meant to punish you for teching. But if he's too close, then you just hit Soul out of whatever he's doing, and you're invincible while the Gunflame passes through you. Tech forward buttons have always been pretty good in Exerd. So, and that's one of the reasons why. That's another reason why. See? And that's a glide drop from Pida there. So, when Raven does the steep glide, I want to make a video talking about this in more detail, but when Raven does the steep glide, he can either keep going straight in this trajectory, or he can not do the attack and go in this downward trajectory. But if you connect with the tangent line at just the correct spot, or if you connect with the glide at just the right spot, then your tangent line is sort of pointing down here-ish. And you can do an attack, but the attack won't come out. So you drop to the ground, and normally you would do 2k here, and you can see Nifty appears to still be standing, so I think he would have gotten hit. Yeah, see? Even when Pida connected with close slash, Nifty was still standing. So it's possible he switched his guard there, but I don't think that he did. Yeah. Also, I want to point out, despite the frame data on Raven's forward dash, it's actually like really awkward to move through Gunflame because it's so slow and so active. And that's another of Pida's adjustments. He just does no Ogi whatsoever, baits out the DP if he can't RC it because it's whiffing. And he finally gets a punish. We can punish DPs, yes. I hate Soul Jump H, by the way. I hate Soul Jump H. I absolutely despise this stupid move. Now as Pida's going for the sick combo. Yeah, and this is going to be around. Just go straight into Getroyer and don't give Nifty the opportunity to burst. I'm going to skip to the next round. Oh, I skipped too far. Why can't you go forward and backward by exactly 5 seconds? And there's the round start I was talking about so many minutes ago in the original video. Stance to beat the far slash. That's okay. Nifty's like, something has changed. And there's the counter hit I was talking about. And this is what Raven does when he actually gets the excitement going. Glide drop, beautiful. Now Nifty is the one spending meter to get out of the corner and screwing up his tension gain pulse and not getting any meter for combos. And Pida, yeah, Pida feeling pretty good. That run up 6P was, I'm not sure what that was meant to beat exactly, but it does launch on counter hit, so he got a very easy combo into close slash into taking around. There's a smile back on the face. Are we about to get some 10 out of 10? Yeah, okay, there we go. And this is what you want to do as Soul. Put a little damage on Raven, and then just delete that and do a normal combo. It's free damage, man. Okay, Pida loving Orb a little bit too much. It's not quite that fast. Pida panic bursting a little bit too much. Also, I want to point out, for all of the pressure that Pida's been doing out of Glide, he's almost never done throw. That's a respect to how the matchup plays out, because when Raven wants to do a mix-up out of Glide, which Pida's about to do here once he recovers from getting hit, You can sort of stop at any point in here and go for throw, but it's pretty conditional. And if your opponent thinks your opponent can actually sort of fuzzy mash throw in here, and depending on the timing of the buttons, it can actually not get counter hit. Because if there's no gap, then there's no risk in mashing, right? But if you have to land and then go low or go for the throw, you give your opponent the chance to throw you first because of throw protection, which is 6 frames from block stun, I believe. Yeah, it's 6 frames from block stun. So Pida, the entire time that he's gone from needle YRC, has just done frame traps and the occasional high-low staccato rhythm thing. Staccato rhythm variation. Again, that's a testament to how the matchup plays out, and this is what happens when you get a nice chunk of damage. And that's what happens when you don't respect the orb. Yeah. Pida, just another day at the office. Nifty, head in his hands. Live Nifty reaction. Yeah, I figured he might burst there. Pida says, whatever, you can burst if you want. Oh, nice scratch. See, I thought that he was not going to be able to convert off of that, but he does. And he gets this reaction too, or this conversion too. Yeah, Pida holding forward there. I guess he expected... Oh, he was trying to do something. Now this is looking very good for Nifty. Pida can escape that. It's not true. Pida can escape the corner. That's not true. Nifty doing Bandit Bringer. And this will just barely kill. Nifty finally getting himself on the board and establishing a pretty good position for himself going into this round. Minor burst differential between the two players. Yeah, and that's another beautiful thing about Orb, which I've been enjoying. I've become an Orb enjoyer in recent years, or in like the last 6 months. Because Soul did not actually directly punish this, Raven has the opportunity to FD, which increases pushback. And so Soul, although he's recovering crouching, does get hit by the orb. I want to see what frame he actually gets hit here. Because when Soul did 2D earlier, or sweep earlier, he stood up into it, and he did not stand up into it, and he did not get hit. Yeah, okay, Nifty just stood up into this. So if he had stayed crouching, he could have been here. But I guess he kept wanting to push the advantage because he felt that he had to. And maybe he tried to do Fafnir or something. I don't know. So he stands up and he gets hit. And now Raven gets this full combo. More excitement. Yeah. And now finally, Nifty's concentration lapses. And Pida can get the command grab and say, that was a 30 frame reactable move and you lost the tournament because of it. No, Pida would not say that. He was a nice guy. I would say that. I'm kind of a jackass.
Pida is your champion of Guilty Gear Exxon Revelator 2.
So, thanks for watching all of that, and thanks for putting up with me taking an extended absence from uploading videos. I promise I'll try to have more stuff coming this year at a more reasonable pace. I don't want to make any exact promises, because I am busy with some real things now instead of just getting into my own head and psyching myself out. But I really had fun doing this, and I hope that all of you out there who are trying to get into this game, please do continue getting into this game, and I hope that you can glean something from this video and improve in some way. Thanks. Remember to like, subscribe, etc. Doesn't cost anything, and it does help. Bye.